Tough loss for Alabama. A lot of people comparing this year's team to 2015. We're going to talk about that with a guy that played on that team and helped Alabama win a national championship. Before we do anything else, though, guys, become part of what we're doing here, part of Disrupt Media. It's Roll Tide Pods. This is Elephant in the Room. He's Jake Coker. I'm Mick Gillespie. Jake, you saw the game. You were on that team that lost to Ole Miss in 2015, and it lit a fuse for you guys, and you won a national championship. Can these guys do that?
You know, I'm never going to rule Coach Saban out. I do think Milroe has potential. I think he's got, he just needs more confidence. He needs more experience. Luckily for me, when I was at Alabama, and look, I think I'm stating the obvious here. Our defenses back then, I mean, the talent, the physicality they brought, we used to, we could win games if we scored 20 points back then. You'd feel pretty confident just how dominant they were, stopping the run and getting pressure on the quarterback. I don't think that our quarterbacks moving forward with the offensive schemes you see today are going to be given that leeway. And so that's the only thing that makes me nervous is him developing in time to be able to, put enough points on the board and compete with these offenses that we're seeing today.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt like that too. It feels like the college football world has changed a lot because you can go out and basically buy the players instead of having to develop them, right? I mean, you can go out and buy it. And it feels like for Milroe, there's some great tools, but the development isn't there yet. And that's going to cost Alabama games as he tries to figure that out. That's what I saw.
Look, like I said, it's a completely different game. I don't know. Had we not had the defense we had in 2015, we had some games where we struggled and didn't score enough as it would have taken Saturday night. So it's not me telling the world that I was a better quarterback in 2015. I was really lucky in the team that surrounded me to help me develop throughout the year. I felt like a totally different guy as we got into week 10, 11, 12, SEC championship and playoff play. There's just some things that I saw that, I could see myself out there in some of the mistakes he made. And then, some of those drives, he looked like he was picking them apart and going to the right spot. And, it gave you some promise that, he's really got a lot of potential. You just got to have some room to grow. Like I said, I'm not going to come on and I hate talking bad about quarterbacks at Alabama because I've been there.
Well, that's tough for you, right?
Yeah, I know how it feels.
Because it's a fraternity. On one hand, you're
right.
watching and you're thinking, okay, but you graduated and he's, still learning, right? And,
well, I saw him, I saw him make a few throws and, it's so funny now because, I'd hear people talk trash about me when I was playing. I'm going to come up there and now I sit back and I'm watching the TV and, an interception throw. I'm like, how do you do that? And then 5 seconds later, I'm like, I did that too.
Yeah, it's a good perspective on it. So it's so much different being a fan than being out there, right. Too.
It's, this is what makes the game so much fun, really, the passion in it. Like I said, he had a lot of good plays. I think the rush kind of got in his head a little bit at times, which, I think we have a hard time picking up 5- and 6-man pressures. And I think sometimes when he did have time, he got a little nervous about being able to step up in the pocket and deliver the ball when he needed to. To me, again, this is not all about Jalen Milroe. This is the whole team's got to get better, both sides of the ball. And hopefully, I was kind of joking about the one loss thing last week. I'm hoping that we can really put it together and grow as a team. The only thing that makes me nervous is, again, I don't know what the coaches are talking about right now, and I don't know what the plan is moving forward with the quarterbacks. I know that after we got done playing Ole Miss, we kind of had a plan, knew what we were going to do moving forward, and we became a unit pretty quickly, and really kind of found our identity I don't know if there's more questions than answers after this game based on what the coaches are seeing. But we got a lot of pieces to figure out.
Yeah, well, you weren't the starter of that game, right? And then you came in. It seems like Nick Saban's reluctant to do that. I remember when Jalen Hurts was quarterback, and all the reports I was getting was that Tua was just tearing up the offense behind the scenes, but Nick Saban did not want to move him out, from what I understand. And then I think he said that later on, but Tua eventually won the job and helped Alabama to a national championship. And I mean, look, the rest is history, as they say, but is it tough for him to make moves with quarterbacks, and how did that go for you?
I think it is. We talked about this a little bit last week. When you got a guy producing on the field, producing wins and not turning the ball over, it's really hard to make that move. And I know, I know Jalen had a couple interceptions, but he did have some good moments. And like I said, if he was to have that kind of defense that we had, or at least that style of play, he'd have a lot more opportunity to grow. But Jalen's a great kid. I think he's a great leader. He's done a good job in the offseason of allowing other guys to grow with him and within the offense. And so it's kind of hard to even think about moving that leader out of there. But, again, you got to play the guy that's going to give you the best chance to win. That may be Jalen. That may be somebody else. I'm not sure. But hopefully we figure out our identity pretty quick and we're able to move forward as a team.
Yeah, look, I was hoping at some point we would have seen Booker, just so we know what he is. I mean, he played for Tommy Rees at Notre Dame. And to me, look, and I'm just an analyst, but I've watched, I don't even know how many Alabama football games. I think every single game during Nick Saban's tenure, all the Shula games, all the Franchione games. I mean, like, I spent my whole life watching football. Doesn't make me an expert. But when Nick Saban took over, I remember the first thing I noticed that was different from the Mike Shula days is just how penalty-free Alabama played very fast and how crisp the offense moved. Not just the deep ball, which Milroe honestly was fantastic at throwing the deep ball, but the short range passes that allow you to use the play action fake, right? The quick fakes and the quick throws. And I just didn't see that on Saturday.
Oh yeah. When I was playing, Lane would run plays that, you knew that every single thing that you did had a purpose, and it was setting up something later on down the line. Yeah. You had to carry out your fakes. You had to have certain guys motion a certain way so that, the defense could see that fake and see that, okay, this might be coming. And then when your eyes are on that, there's a receiver running right past you for a touchdown. There was always all these moving pieces, and you always had to be running full speed to get the most out of all those motions and fakes.
When you look at this offense, do you see those same things? Because I noticed that Texas did a lot of that stuff with Sark, and he was kind of from that same tree as Lane Kiffin, right? Mm-hmm. Your offensive coordinator. So, it's like there seem to be a lot of similarities in that Texas always seemed to be doing something to set up the next play and set up the defense for something later on down the line. And I felt like that a lot of that came from USC when they all played under Pete Carroll, and I don't even know. Do you even remember those teams?
Oh yeah.
They've probably been small, but
yeah, a lot of it. I remember
Reggie Bush.
Lane was really close with Chip Kelly.
Yes,
and I remember we'd be sitting in meetings sometimes, and he'd call Chip Kelly and ask him about certain plays and certain motions and other things. But Chip Kelly was a big contributor to that offense and helping us create more opportunities off really similar looks.
It was a tough loss for Alabama, and we do blame the quarterback a lot, which really isn't fair, and you've been through that before. But then when you turn things around, you get a lot of credit too, so it's kind of a two-edged sword, right? It's nice to be the quarterback of a championship team. But I agree with a lot of people that say, hey, it's not just the quarterback. The snaps were bad. There was a guy on the offensive line that was getting pushed in the backfield a lot. and he was a true freshman. So, I mean, that could happen. I thought the receivers did a good job of catching the ball, but Nick Saban said that they weren't open all the time. And then to me, I felt like the offense really led the defense in to having a bad day because they weren't holding the ball long enough. Like even when they scored, it was like a big deep pass. And like when you guys would play, you could do that, but you could also grind out. I remember the Tennessee game because I was in line trying to get some Coke for my bourbon, to be honest with you. I mean, we're all friends here, right?
Yeah.
And Derrick Henry ran right through him. I missed the entire third quarter because the Brookwood band wasn't getting much of my get the line moving fast enough. So you guys can do both. Yeah. No, I was like, I get back and I'm like, it's the fourth quarter.
Yeah. I mean, another thing, we also had Derrick Henry in the backfield and there were games he'd run it 40, 50 times. I mean, just a total machine. And we had some drives there that would be 8-9 minutes long, and so our defense, the poor offense on the other side, just got a fresh set of legs on the other side of the line of scrimmage to compete against. And, it's just, again, it was a different game back then. And gosh, that team we had was just so unselfish. And again, you don't know the inner workings of a locker room.
Yeah.
But, I always say I wish everybody could play on a team like we had in 2015 because of just the lack of selfishness. I mean, it's funny. I was talking to Denzel Duvall, who's at Alabama now, and he always talks trash to all these younger guys. And he's a great guy, and he told me he was talking to Bryce Young one day, and he said they're having the talk about the 2015 would wear out the 2022 team
right.
and all that, and he goes. Bryce come back. He goes, no, the difference between us and y'all is that we'd actually died for each other out there. Y'all ain't about that.
That's really funny. When you win as much as Alabama has with Nick Saban, like you could compare all those championship teams and which one was the best. And I bet there's a lot of pride with you guys feeling like, hey, our team was the best.
No, yeah, I saw Reggie Ragland and Drake Kirkpatrick and somebody. Yeah, they were all Trent Richardson. They were all going back and forth. I mean, that conversation never ends. Draft prep. I remember Vinny Sinceri worked out with us. And that came up at least once a day. It's a good problem to have when you talk about which national championship team would beat the other.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, if this team's going to win a national championship, some things are going to have to change, and they're going to have to change fast because they go to South Florida. Southern. What is it? South Florida?
USF.
Got it right. Yeah, USF. This Saturday, kind of a weird matchup against the team, at their home stadium, but it was a 2-for-1 deal. I like it. Look, you recruit a lot in Florida, but that's a game that they should be able to just go out there and take care of business. And then they come back and they play your guy, Lane Kiffin, and Ole Miss.
That's going to be a tough game. This is one of those years where I think Lane's finally got all his pieces in place. They look pretty good this weekend. And like every year, except for that, except for the year he threw his headset, he's always got a lot of plays dialed up that are probably going to work. So that one I've got circled, and I can't wait to watch that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I want to ask you about some of your former coaches because they're all over the SEC right now. But I want to remind you guys, as you hang out with us, this is Elephant in the Room, and we really like hanging out with you. And so make sure that you're part of Roll Tide Pods, and you like and subscribe so you know when our show goes live. We're going to do it twice a week through football season, and it's brought to you by Lance's Lock. And if you need some help at MyBookie, check out Lance's Lock. He'll help you with the picks that you need to make some straight cash from MyBookie. Have a better weekend than I did because I didn't ask Lance or Lance's Lock for any help, and I lost every game that I I was surprised by Texas A&M losing like that.
Yeah, I was too.
And I thought that Tulane would straight up beat Ole Miss. Now, their starting quarterback was out. the guy that got him to the Cotton Bowl last year. But you know what, Lane? I mean, shouldn't have bet against him. And then the Alabama game. So it was 0 for 3. Next week, I'm going with Lance's line.
Good. Going in the 0 for 3 column.
It's been a bad start for me. The college football has just changed so much.
Yeah, the transfer portal and the NIL has really changed everything. There's not going to be anymore. To me, I don't think there will be teams that are just going to go out and slap people around every year. There's going to be too many athletes spread across the country. I mean, you think about it, well, mainly because of the depth. I mean, you're not going to have 3 deep at Alabama that are all 5 stars, that are going to get drafted and actually going to stay for 5 years. You're not starting within year 2. They're probably not going to stick around.
Yeah. And I wonder if Nick Saban's style is going to keep working. I mean, kids don't like to be yelled at anymore. I mean, A.J. McCarron got spanked on the sideline, and I mean, like, he handled it well, but I mean, like, I don't see Nick Saban as fiery either. I think I misread him this year.
He was I was expecting some broken headsets. Saturday.
No, then none of that. What does that tell us?
I think he does have confidence in this team. I think he's just waiting. He knows we got a long way to go with the youth on our team. We got to get through those first 6 games before I think we start hitting our groove and figure things out.
Yeah.
And again, I think some of that may come into play. He's really trying to boost these guys' confidence and make them realize, hey, we can contend, but you got to believe in yourself.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I'm going to give you the list of things that I think that they're going to have to do to contend. Okay. They're going to have to snap the ball cleanly. And that.
Yeah.
Milroe's getting a lot of blame, that including me. I thought he looked, after seeing Matthew McConaughey on the sideline continuously, dazed and confused in the pocket a little bit, right? But some of those snaps weren't his fault, and you get out of.
Well, it's like driving a car. Jimbo used to always, Jimbo would tear a center apart because, he'd always say it's like driving a car. If you snap it around their feet, it's like driving with your head down below the hood of the car. You got to figure that out. And again, there's kind of a lot going on sometimes on defense. And I think Jalen, that mixed with the pressure he was getting, when you got your eyes down and you don't have much time to see what they're doing, man, it makes it hard to make a decision, especially when you're trying to get the right read, the right angle on them throwing the deep ball.
Yeah, no doubt. And that was something that Alabama had issues with last year too. I mean, Bryce Young had some issues getting the snaps last year. So that's one thing. And you're exactly right about, I've never heard it described like that, but the fact that it is like driving a car. I mean, how are you going to look downfield? And it also disrupts your timing. I felt like the wheel route that he had Chase McClellan, which could have been a touchdown because of the bad snap. He had to hurry the throw, and it was not a bad throw.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's one of those, you get a bad snap, you don't really get to see what kind of angle he's coming out on. So you just got to put air on it and hope that he makes a play, even though he's wide open. I get it, but there's a lot of guessing there when you can't focus and see exactly what, how he's coming out, if he's getting a little rub by the defender. Just a lot of different variables in there, and you just got to throw it up sometimes, let your guy make a play.
Yeah. The offensive line, we talked about that, and I feel like Milroe isn't at a spot yet where he can just jump somebody's ass.
Yeah. And I was thinking the same, at some point, these guys are going to have to start coaching themselves and really getting after each other's asses.
Yeah.
And not rely on coaches to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, like, that's something that you have to, as a quarterback, have a couple big games where everybody's got to buy into what you're bringing.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say this, it is kind of tough when the coaches haven't really bought in and named you the starter to do that because, I don't care, what the word is around the locker room or what people believe. If your coaches aren't bought in, how are your players going to buy in?
Yeah, right. So how about for you? Was there a point where you were like, hey, you knew that you had gotten to that with the team, and I'm sure there were times where you were like, hey, man, whether it be a running back or whether it be a tight end or whether it be an offensive lineman, we're like, you got to block.
It was, well, I didn't get on the O lineman or anybody. I mean, blocking, that's a tough job, and I just
Right.
appreciate them wearing
Yeah.
their ass out just to protect
You don't
me.
make them too mad. Because they could fix that for you real quick.
Oh,
right?
yeah. The only time I really got on them was when we were trying to hurry up and line up and guys just be kind of jogging up there. I remember we were playing LSU and we had a big play or something. We're down towards the goal line, and I'll save some of the language that was used, but I was like, "Hurry up, you fat, you know what?" and they all line up, and Ryan Kelly turns around and goes, "Hey, Coker, shut the up." And I was like, "All right."
It turned out great.
I think we scored the next play. So
Yeah. Right.
But they all got up to the line quick after that. So,
yeah. That's no fun though.
Oh yeah.
But that's when you get to that point with guys on these teams, any sport, that you got something special.
Oh yeah. When everybody's policing themselves, and you can, you're all competing together, and you got the same goal, and you can kind of get after each other's ass pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of whatever.
Yeah,
we're just here to win. That's when you got something pretty special.
Yeah, I noticed after Alabama lost to LSU last year, Bryce Young, whose personality he's just so smart, and you can tell he's not a big talker. He's a thinker, right?
Oh yeah.
But then there came that point where you just saw him taking the leadership, like where it was hey, you know what? I've got to do this. And I know that's going to help him in the NFL. But I feel like if he would have kind of gotten that a little bit sooner last year, then maybe they wouldn't have lost to LSU, because you could tell that it was a different mentality when he started to really be vocal on the sideline against Auburn.
Oh, yeah. And then it carried over to when he played Kansas State and beat them by 50
Did you
points.
see that too?
Oh, yeah. It just – and again, it takes certain guys a certain amount of time, and sometimes it gets to the point where you're just tired of the same old structure and let's get through this workout. Let's get through this practice. And you want to do something more than just go 10-2.
Right.
And, Bryce – again, I don't think we've seen the defenses as of recently as we have in the past, and the physical just beating he used to take and the way he just carry that team. When now that he's gone, we're kind of seeing that with a new guy that hadn't quite reached his potential yet, just still trying to figure it out. It really shows you how valuable he was.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is, let's be honest, there's a different standard at Alabama. Auburn has years where it's like, you know what, this is a development year. They get better throughout the season. They end up with 4 losses, and then the next year they have a contender, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes 2 years. I know their fans are impatient, but at Alabama, we just have this standard. And honestly, it was even there when we stunk back when I was a student, where the expectation was that Alabama was not going to have a successful season if they didn't win a national championship.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if that's realistic anymore.
Yeah, and it happened. As soon as Coach Saban got here, it happened really quick.
Every year, right?
Yeah.
The game on this is the thing that worries me. Not as hey, look, I'm a broadcaster, whatever, but this as a grad and a fan, forget about the objective part. The thing that worries me is that all the losses, and you and I both could probably sit here without any help from the internet and figure out every single loss that Alabama's had under Nick Saban, because there's not many of them, right?
No, that's right.
It would be impossible to figure out the wins, right?
Oh,
The losses, you can sit there and figure out. This was the first loss since 2007 where I just felt like Alabama was by far not the inferior team.
Yeah.
And that's what scares me.
Or now, at least you saw the potential. And look, again, this team's very young in terms of experience and leadership.
Right.
I always think, the first 6 games of a season are always really hard to determine how good a team is, because, again, if you'd have seen us play when I was there, even, my first or both years at Alabama, but the first half of the season, you really wouldn't have thought much of us. And then leaders started to develop. We had plenty of leaders on defense. offensively. We had 9 new starters, really trying to figure it out and figure out how to play with each other. And I think it's similar this year. They have not had enough time to really figure it out in the lights. You can practice as much as you want to, but until you feel, the weight of each play and the weight of each turnover and understand, the importance of taking care of the ball and knowing how those turnovers can affect you, man, it's pretty tough to get a good feel for how good a team is.
Yeah, and that was kind of going back to where I was saying before, the snaps, the offensive line, but the turnovers.
Yeah.
And I've had debates with people. Okay, well, 2 touchdowns got called back because of penalties, right? Well, penalties and turnovers, to me, if you're on the wrong end of those, it's never going to be good for your football team. The 2 touchdowns that were called back were also on plays that, they weren't designed to go that way. One should have been an interception. It was a tip ball. Had the same thing happen to me on the KA flag football team in Alabama. I caught the touchdown. So I was like, hey, I've done that. And then they took it back. I didn't mind counting. Anyway, back in the day, that's my extent of football.
One of my father-in-law's buddies always tells me, goes, you may want an effing national championship, but you never beat the SAE.
Yeah. They beat us too. But one year we lost to them in the championship. So you bring back bad memories. It's like a really close game. Right. Somebody's watching out there and be like, man, I remember Mick on this. But the penalties are something that they had an issue with last year. Yeah. They're back again. And the turnovers really weren't something that they dealt with a whole lot last year because Bryce Young took care of the football. But those 2 things, coupled with the snaps and the offensive line, to me, were the 4 biggest problems that they had. And those are big problems.
Yeah. I mean, and here's the deal. The interceptions were definitely big. But at the same time, I remember running concepts like that. I mean, when he's standing there, we got an 8-man protection. You got a play action fake from under center. Your eyes aren't on the defense very much. Right. I know right before that play happened, the safety rolled down, and I think he ended up coming. And I'm sure his first thought was, I know they had a post backside, and the other safety, I mean, I'm sure his thought was he's going in the middle of the field, and I'm not going to be able to throw this post. So he's timing up that, I think it was a deep curl. He's timing that up, and he's got to get it out. And he's getting his eyes around, seeing where he is, locating him. I think I got a safety up high. I'm just going to throw this thing. And it was obvious he didn't see him. And yeah. I think there was some just confusion on his end on what defense they were playing, and probably some logical thoughts. But it's one of those mistakes that I know I've made. It's easy. I'm sure everybody's like, man, how did you not see that guy? But when you got a deep play action fake and you get your eyes around and you're trying to hit a guy on time, because if you're late, it could be a pick by the corner. You just don't have a lot of time to locate that safety sometimes when he does stuff like that.
Right. How did you learn how to read defenses at that level? Because I remember you playing, and I saw you looking guys off. I mean, you would set them up to hit O.J. Howard wide open, like I can still see it now. Like, there was always that moment in the game where O.J. Howard would have his wide open catch for a touchdown.
Well, those two are almost like, you get the ball and you fake a play action pass, and then you're peeking at your first read, and then you're like, oh shit, there he is. It's like, oh my God, just make sure you throw it where you can catch it.
I can still see him running in that national championship game. Like, I did not see this last week.
Yeah, that's right.
How do you guys learn how to do that, though? I mean, we didn't. Look, our quarterback for the KA team was good, but I don't know if he's going like 3 reads down for a throw.
I think it's just rep after rep. And, I think when you get older and you played in a lot more games, again, I got 1 season in and felt like a different guy at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But when you learn how to kind of get your schedule as far as looking at film and understanding what to look at, and realize you don't need to see, you got certain indicators and you can focus on that, and rather than just getting caught up looking at all these moving parts, it makes it a lot easier to kind of dial in and figure out exactly who to go to based on just a few key indicators that you get.
Right.
But got to learn under Jimbo, got to learn under Lane, and to the best in the business. And
yeah.
So, and I had Randy Sanders at Florida State, who had spent a lot of time around the SEC. Coach Peyton Manning at Tennessee.
I know. Yeah.
He was, to me, I mean, he was like a mentor and just an unbelievable coach on top of that. And so, I've built a really good foundation at Florida State. Didn't really get to play in that system too much game time, but kind of built a foundation moving into Alabama and then understanding what we're trying to do under Lane.
Do you think you're the guy that started the transfer portal? I'm just kidding, but you know what I mean? Like when you transferred, that it wasn't like it is now.
Oh,
It's a big deal. I remember when you transferred, everybody was like, "Oh yes."
Oh yeah,
we were excited.
It's so funny. I'll talk to some people who don't really realize I transferred from Florida State to Alabama, and they'll be like, "Yeah, this transfer portal. These soft young guys, they just transfer as soon as they can't play." And I'm just like, scratching my head, like, I transferred.
Yeah. Oh, by the way.
That's right.
Yeah.
But, I grew, like we talked about before, I grew up a huge Alabama fan. Grew up, watching Zal, Tyler Watts, all those guys, and it was a dream of mine. So to be able to come back to Alabama, there was nowhere else I was going.
Nah, look, Jake, you made the right decision, Jake. I mean, come on.
That's right.
I'm with you. I like Florida State, but honestly, I tell people this all the time. Going to the University of Alabama is one of the best things I've ever been a part of. I love it.
Oh yeah, well,
I loved every minute of it. Man.
Just the tradition. It's just the
campus.
It's the biggest thing in town. It's just a cultural thing.
People and the thing about it too is, I've spent a lifetime in baseball,
Yeah.
and the Alabama people just like take care of you, you know what I'm saying? Like you run into somebody that's an Alabama person in the business, and then all of a sudden, the minute you meet them, they're your best friend, and it's genuine.
Well, everybody, and it's, in that stadium, everybody's got great memories, and when Dixieland, the light comes on, Sweet Home Alabama during warm-ups, you're just like, oh man, there's nothing better than this.
Yeah, no, I just loved everything about it, like the parties, the strip.
Right.
I bartended. I did the most at it. College radio, lacrosse
just
team.
Didn't go to many classes, but
no, that was. I still talk about that. I learned about bartending. I learned more about life than I did in my class.
Oh, I'm sure.
Stuff that I use, in my day-to-day workings is the thing that I got out of it was I'd say the number one thing I got out of college at Alabama is that you meet so many people from different backgrounds, and you're friends with like so many different people. I got my sister to go there, and I remember when she came, she was like, wow, everybody. And I'm like, you can do that here. Now, I don't know how it is now because it's gotten so big, but when I was there, man, there wasn't like 5 degrees of separation. It was like 1 degree of separation, But I think it's like it just always had that feel like, to me anyway, just like its own community, like a good community.
It's like a second home.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just going back, I'm lucky enough. I most of that, not most of the coaching staff, but the personnel people within the building in Alabama.
Yeah.
Every time I go back, it's just, hugs. It's just the best feeling when you go there and you just got a family type atmosphere. All those guys, Coach Saban he's built it in a way where everybody works so hard. I remember when I had my second knee surgery, right when I got to Alabama, it was Memorial Day weekend. I had a surgery Friday, and Jeremy Sill, Jeff Allen, all those guys.
Oh, yeah.
I was sitting in my apartment that weekend, just, by myself, and they'd come watch TV with me, bring me food. It's just a different type atmosphere, different level of support. You can really understand why Alabama's so good when you see that kind of personnel around.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so let's talk about some of your former coaching. Some of your former coaches, and I want to start with Jimbo Fisher. Two of your former coaches, actually, all three of your former coaches cost me in my gambling this weekend. Right? So the first one would be Nick Saban, and we talked about Alabama. The second one would be Jimbo Fisher, who's now at Texas A&M. And I thought they played a good game, and they just didn't win. But what was it like playing for him? What's he like?
Oh man, you talk about players getting yelled at. He's a different animal. I mean, you throw an interception at a Florida State practice when I was there, man, you'd be thinking about the ass ripping you got for the rest of the week.
You just hoped it was Jameson.
That's right. He'd throw it, you'd be like, hopefully he's still talking to him when I go in.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
No, I mean, he was so detail oriented when I was there. I mean, man, there was always an answer for whatever coverage it was. I mean, the guy he was in our quarterback meetings every day. And so, the quarterbacks didn't even have to get onto the receivers. Everything had to be run in a certain way where it was easy to see. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, how much attention to detail routes have to be so that you can be on time and anticipate and throw it in the correct spot. I mean, as far as the passing game goes, and we had Rick Trickett coaching our offensive line.
Oh yeah, one of the greats, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and so I mean, those guys, it was just so dialed in. Everything was so detail oriented. You could see why we won a national championship in 2013, and ever since he got there, we were better and better. And again, I don't know how the wheels kind of fell off there at the end, but to me, he's as good as anybody in the country.
Yeah. Did you take some of the stuff that you learned at Florida State and apply it to your time at Alabama?
Oh yeah, for sure. And Jimbo took some things from Coach Saban at LSU, and made a lot of it his own and built on that. And everybody kind of does similar things. It's just different verbiage. So really learning that new vocabulary as far as play calling goes and understanding, this is kind of the same thing here. It's just called something different, and putting all that together, was the biggest thing.
I bet against Lane Kiffin, and that was a bad idea. But I said Tulane's quarterback got hurt. That's my excuse. But I think Ole Miss is a really good spot for him.
I do too. It seems they're extremely happy to have him, and I think he's kind of gotten his work-life balance in order, and he seems to be in a good place. And like I said, Ole Miss, not historically a great program. I mean, they've got a lot of history over there, but have not consistently won year over year. So I think he loves being in a place that loves him back. Yeah,
no doubt. I've said this before to my buddy Chris Lowe. We got to lunch, throughout the summer when I'm in Knoxville. I think he's great, Chris, and he knows everything about football. But I think Lane Kiffin is a guru of offense. I mean, I think he's a genius of offense.
He thinks of it so much differently than most.
Yeah.
Just finding ways for guys that you would typically not think would play a big role in certain schemes. I mean, he figures out a way to get them involved, and somehow, built through disguise, gets them open on the back end, and he just figures things out.
Yeah. I mean,
and finds rules that he can manipulate, to get the ball down the field.
Yeah, and he always knows when he's got something going on. You just see him every once in a while, before the play. He's a genius at it. How would someone like Tommy Rees get to that point? I mean, is it just do you just keep grinding it out, or I mean, how do you go from being an offensive coordinator to someone that's like a difference maker, like a Lane Kiffin?
And
maybe that's an unfair question, but
I didn't realize he was 31 years old.
Young guy.
I mean, it's crazy to think how quickly he's progressed. And again, I think Tommy's going to be great at Alabama.
Yeah.
I think, it's tough. Any first year coach. I mean, look, Bill O'Brien's got the best resume of most any offensive coordinators that have ever been through Alabama. And I do think he did a great job. I like Bill. I think he did a lot at Alabama. But things just didn't work out for him.
Right.
And you never know how everything's going to fall into place. I think he's going to figure it out. Again, a lot of it has to deal with, the team's growth throughout the year.
No doubt. All right, before I ask you your next question, do you need a refill or are you good?
No, I'm good.
You good? All right, let me ask you this one, and then while you're talking about it, I'm going to put a little in there. Moving forward, we talked about the issues that Alabama has had. How do they fix them? What do you think?
Ooh. Well, I'll say this, and like I said, we were talking about last week when Alabama does much better historically after a loss. I mean, we'll see. Again, I was named the starter right after that Ole Miss game,
right?
And everybody kind of jumped on the same page, figured it out. I'm a little nervous now that there's seems to be some confusion on who's the guy and who's going to be the leader of this offense. I'd like to see some unification on that front, and then just build from there around one quarterback. Have one game plan and build that around one quarterback and just try to move forward. And again, I the defense, I think those guys played their hearts out. They had to defend a lot, and there were a lot of bad positions.
Yeah.
So I again like to see where that plays out. But as far as offensively, I want to see one guy moving forward and figure it around that one guy.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out a lot on Saturday. Against South Florida, like what direction things are going right now. Coach Saban said, "Hey, I thought about making a move." But it gets to the point where it'd be unfair to make a move. You get late in the game. I mean, you're going to put somebody in the fourth quarter. I mean, wouldn't that be something you do in the first half?
Worked out with Tua.
Yeah, worked out with Tua. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. How do you watch the NFL on Sunday and watch all those guys?
I watch a little bit. I do. I like watching Tua, and I like watching Jalen. I love Mac. So I like watching the former Alabama guys.
Yeah.
I mean, what Jalen's done, my gosh, his mental toughness and just his mental ability surpasses just about anybody I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah. Did you get to know any of those guys?
I knew Jalen a little bit. He came in, I knew him a little bit. He came in January, right before we played the national championship. So he sat in on a few meetings. And,
right.
Seemed like a great guy.
Yeah.
But I don't really know him.
Right.
Two, I introduced myself to him. I don't know, right when he got there. I was coming through the tunnel at the spring game his freshman year. He graduated early, and I saw him throw an over route. It was like, he stepped up in the pocket and anticipated and got the ball out over a backer, and I was like, my God, who is that kid?
Yeah.
And they told me, that's Tua. That's the guy from Hawaii. And I was like, man, that guy's going to be a stud.
Yeah.
And then Mac I always said he was the safest pick in the draft his year coming out.
Oh, yeah.
That guy just sees things. And again, he anticipates and doesn't quite have the athleticism that Jalen has, obviously, but man, his ability mentally is what sets him apart from everybody else.
Yeah, no doubt. Well,
and accuracy.
Yeah. I pull for all those guys. I'm a Ravens fan, because I'm from there, but I pull for all of them. Like it's, if they're on and I'm watching and they're not playing the Ravens, I'm pulling for them.
Yeah.
But a lot of it has to do with fantasy football too. Like do you have a fantasy football team?
I'm afraid if I do fantasy football, I'll just be like hooked on it on Sundays and won't be able to do anything else. I just get to.
No, I am. My wife's like, you hate fantasy football. It's not that I hate it. It's just that it's so intense.
I did it in high school one time. On Sundays, I was so consumed by it. I was like, I got to do something else.
You're smart. You're smart. You're definitely smart. All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up? This is episode 2 that we just did.
Yeah, I would say, again, I know everybody's quick to jump on Jalen. And, he had a couple mistakes that cost Alabama, much like everybody else out there, but it sticks out more because you're the quarterback. But really, I thought he had a lot of good moments. If he could build some continuity in those long drives that he made. Yeah. I know Coach Saban was talking about possibly putting somebody else in until he got those drives going. I mean, some of those drives, he looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
And again, when you first come in there, hadn't played many games, it's hard to see everything. Everything's moving fast. You're looking at the big picture instead of what you're supposed to be looking at. Sometimes you get caught up in it. I remember the Ole Miss game. I had a look we had been working on all week. It's like 3rd and 11. It was like quarters, and you had Calvin Ridley on a post inside, and the safety had outside leverage. And I still kick myself thinking about it to this day. Like, why didn't you throw that? He was wide open, cut right in front of that safety. And for some reason in my head, I was like, it's 3rd and 11. I got to hit Richard Mullaney right past the sticks. It'll be an easy throw. Didn't throw that post, threw an incompletion on 3rd down, and it probably would have been a touchdown. And I'm sure Lane's still like, that dumbass. And I am too. But, there's things you just, as a younger guy, especially first few starts in there, sometimes your reads, you get a little caught up in the moment and make bad decisions. And I've been there. I think Jalen's got a lot of potential. I just hope he can put it together, pretty quickly. And again, he looked put together every now and then. I mean, for the most part during that game, there's some little things that he could improve on that I think could make a difference in the game.
No doubt. Look, it's not his fault that they made all the penalties. He contributed to the turnovers, but the snaps weren't his fault, so there's a lot of things, right, that can change fast. I just hope that we see that moment that, like again, you guys had against Ole Miss, even though you didn't win, you just saw it.
Yeah.
It was there, and it was like, hey.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those games we felt, I think everybody, if we had one more quarter,
right,
just one more quarter, you could tell we had them just against the ropes. Had we not had a 2-minute drive and tried to throw that interception on the double move, had we not gotten that position, I think we'd have drove down the field and scored. But, I think just a few key mistakes Saturday is what cost us the game. Could have gotten away with some of the minor stuff. But this team's got a lot of potential. I'm not counting them out yet.
Okay.
I think we got a good chance to make the playoff. But we got to make a run. Yeah.
And then look, next year, and I would say this too. For those people that say that the dynasty's over, next year 12 teams get it.
Yeah, that's right.
So just remember that. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a different animal next year. Like,
oh yeah.
And the other thing that I want to say to take up for Nick Saban is kudos for playing a tough team.
Oh yeah.
Like, look at Georgia's schedule.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and we all like Kirby, but that schedule is paper soft. I mean, come on, man. At least Alabama's out there playing Texas. I mean, and I know they're going to be like, well, we were going to play Oklahoma, but look who you added to the schedule. You guys aren't playing anybody all year. This is a legitimate schedule. And then next year, Georgia, you're going to be forced to play a tough schedule.
When does Georgia play top 25 team?
Yeah, like Tennessee, like way down
5?
the road. Yeah, I don't even know, way down the road, so, and that'll be it. And then they'll be in the playoff, and, and Alabama's had some years like that too. I'm not going to say they haven't, but not lately. And this was this is part of a great home schedule this year.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's going to be an exciting year now, and like I said, it will be tough. If we don't show up for a game or two, we're in trouble.
Yeah,
but I mean, like I said, we're still Alabama, still got a shot. I'm still.
I like your optimism, Jake. I'll drink to that. I'll drink. I'm drinking a hit.
I can't count my boys out.
Don't do it, man. Don't do it. I'm not counting them out
but
either.
We do need some leadership, some ownership, some guys that are willing to put everything they got out on the line and staying off the dang, FaceTime after the game, dancing and all that. Just I mean, come on, guy. Yeah.
I was yelling at the TV a couple of times. Like, come on, man. You got a first down. I don't need all this.
That's right.
Get back in the huddle. Yeah, you threw a touchdown, but guess what? You're not on the magazine cover. Go look at an iPad.
That's right. That's right.
This has been fun. We'll get together before, and we'll get together again this week, and we'll talk about South Florida. No disrespect to South Florida, but we had to just break this game down.
That's right. That's right.
It's been eating us up.
Oh yeah.
Everybody that's watching.
But I'm ready to forget about it. So
yeah, ready to move on. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with us on Roll Tide Pods. Elephant in the Room, Jay Coker. I'm Mick Gillespie. Comment. We'll check out your comments. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Be a part of what we got going on and what everyone's got going on. A lot of great shows on here. It's really fun to be part of the Next Round crew. I love watching their show. I know you do too. And it's just like we just want our show to be the one that they're like, hey man, these guys are really killing it for us right now. We're competitive, Jake. We're competitive. Right. So you guys like and subscribe and Roll Tide. We'll talk to you again real soon.